Are we live? We are. Hooray. Welcome to our Success Mastermind for Friday the 17th, 2021. John Lavenia here with you, and casual Friday, I guess. I've been packing boxes and taking apart stuff in the garage, and that's how my morning went. Then I had a meeting I had to have with some people, which prompted some thoughts for me, which I may take up with you here today. But I am glad to be here with Missy and Gail and everybody else who's tuning in, whether you're live or recorded. Hi, Gail. Good to see you. You're not driving today. That's great. We do have on the calendar today, and I know a lot of people are into holiday mode now. Holiday mode, right? But we do have Be Heard on the calendar today. I would love to hear any ideas, questions, requests for assistance, anything I can do for you guys. That's why I'm here at 6 p.m. Eastern US time on Fridays. So besides that, that's the only other thing we got on our calendar for today. And of course, what we're doing right here. Hi, Daisy. Good to see you as well. So I just had this conversation with a couple of people who are seeking to be successful in online business and entrepreneurship. One of them was a truck driver. So that's a noble profession, right? I mean, people do that. It's kind of an isolated thing, right? Some people, I guess, prefer that, right? Just go you in the highway for like ever, right? And come home every now and then. It's a different lifestyle, right? And it doesn't require a whole lot of, well, I'm going to not speak from personal experience. I've driven trucks, not as for a profession, but I've driven trucks across country. And I would say that keeping oneself entertained or perhaps even educated, like audiobooks and stuff, there's a lot of windshield time there, right? So what else do you do while you're driving? Because it's pretty damn mundane, right? I mean, you got to be awake, obviously. You got to keep that rig on the road. But it's a very different profession, right, in terms of where most of our attention is going compared to other professions. The other person I just talked to was an accountant. Very different than driving a truck, and very different than being an online business entrepreneur. Very different, right? So in that world, it's very black and white. There's right, there's wrong, there's no in between, right? It's either correct or it's not correct. And so in both of those cases, I was thinking, wow, what a departure it is to go from this or that profession into what is statistically the highest paid profession in the world, which is sales and marketing. Regardless of what means we're talking about, what methods or modalities, here's technology, here's no technology, whatever. It's the art and science of communicating an idea to another person or people, right, to induce compliance, participation, an enrollment, a purchase, a transaction, right? So that's statistically nothing beats it. I mean, you could be the biggest, baddest rocket surgeon in the universe and probably make more than, a top level salesperson or something. But that's a strange bird, right? Same with, we could say the entertainment industry, right? There's here's Elton John, and here's all the other people that play piano just as good as Elton John, and you've never heard of them, right? So there are the outliers, right? Elton John makes more money than me. Okay, that's he earned that. Okay, and a whole lot of what went into that? A whole lot of sales and marketing went into that. It's not just Elton John. Hey, I showed up, everybody, look at my piano. Here's my sunglasses. Give me money, right? There was a bit more to that story. So sales and marketing. And how do I know that it's the highest paid profession? Well, I can tell you from my own experience, I've never, in anything else I've done, okay, which hasn't been 10 million other things, okay, but there are other things that I've done which didn't pay nearly as well. And also, when listening to the classic recording from Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret, which I think you're all familiar with, everyone who joins this mastermind group gets a copy of that. But he even said it right in there. Sales is the highest paid profession in the world. Well, there it is, right? And he knew something about the various professions. Interestingly, he was a student of Napoleon Hill, who was a student of Andrew Carnegie, the first billionaire. Carnegie, he knew stuff about making money, right? And what did he say that he valued more than anything else, and you may not know the answer, but I'm about to give it to you. So here's this guy who was a steel magnate, right? U.S. Steel, which later then got shifted over Charles Schwab and the Morgan Group, and they made Bethlehem Steel. And anyway, we're talking about the late 1800s, early 1900s, the Industrial Revolution. But Carnegie said he would pay more for a man's ability to work cooperatively with other men than for any other talent, right? So about steel. Carnegie himself didn't know about steel. He knows what it is and all that, but he's not a metallurgist or an engineer or anything like that, right? He employed people that were, but if they couldn't work cooperatively, then they would not be as valuable in his organization as those who could. Because think of it like this, right? When we're talking about sales and marketing, we're talking about communication. Communication is what causes all of that to occur. And so the quality of communication, to be able to give and receive communication, is paramount. Paramount. Now, we can also look at the trucker and say, well, there's communication happening there, okay, as it relates to that profession. The machine is being communicated with, hands are on wheel, right? So there's operating the machine, communicating with the machine. The machine doesn't talk back. It does respond, not with words, okay? But there is a control factor in there. And also communication with what? Other motorists, signs. Here's the sign communicating with them. So this is communication. It's happening all the time. But without it, you can't operate that profession. Here's the accountant communicating with numbers, charts, spreadsheets, and things that I personally do not have a very high level of affinity for. They're necessary and good and right, and we pay people to do that stuff. They like doing this. I don't like doing that stuff. Okay, but that's communication too. But here's the thing, there's no persuasion involved in either of those, right? So when you have a machine, it's going to respond to the inputs. When you have data, numbers, mathematics, right? It's very cold, and there's no personality there. But when dealing with other men, right? Here's Carnegie and here's his steel people, right? There's got to be some cooperation, some synergy that could occur. Why did he become so big and powerful? Carnegie, right? Because he had a working organization. These are things, admittedly, he could not do on his own. So he induced or persuaded people to operate at a higher level. He drew out the best in people. He sold them on what? The value and the purpose of doing good work and working cooperatively with others and all this. So there was an internal sales that occurred. Okay. Or aren't we here to sell steel to the guy who's about to build the bridge? Yeah, that's outside sales. But what about inside sales? And so what we're looking at here, when I say something which I've leaned on for a long time, something like sales and marketing is the highest paid profession in the world, I've got to look at it from two different angles. One is you and your customer. So that we could say is outside sales. You're taking your product and you're putting it out into the marketplace. Nice. Okay. And that has to happen. Otherwise, you're just sitting there playing with your products and you've got a hobby or whatever you're doing. But the inside sales, because nobody's an island, right? Missy and I have had a few conversations recently about some of the vendors and technology providers and things which apparently haven't learned how to cooperate with others, but there's an internal sales pitch going on nonetheless. Hey, we need to cooperate on this because outside sales don't happen if you and I don't get our act together here. So right there, just thinking of that approach, okay? And I see Lindsay just joined us as well. Hi, Lindsay. So thinking of that approach, can we, whether we're talking about a business organization, you and your vendors, your people that are necessarily participating in your enterprise, or even your family, spouse, kids, whatever, can we think like salespeople for a minute? I mean, think of it like this. How many of us, and you can own this or not, but how many of us have taken for granted, well, I can go ahead and just be a bit curt with my wife, my daughter, whatever, because after all, where are they going to go, right? That deal's already sold. That deal's already sold. Was my daughter going to undaughter me or something? Right. So I can go ahead and be and there's no consequence for that. Yeah, there's a consequence for that. Oh, yeah, there is. So the internal sales of the household must also remain intact. Remember Carnegie, your ability to work cooperatively with other people, right? So just the fact that they already got hired, or in this case, like my daughter who's already got born, okay? So just because that transaction occurred doesn't mean that we're done selling. So when I say selling, what I'm talking about in the broadest sense is communicating effectively to get an idea across and to have it be accepted. We don't have to be in 100% agreement all the time on everything, but the communication has to be received, and then we can have a debate or whatever we're going to have. But still, that's all part of it. Look, in sales, right? No matter what we're selling, people might have an objection or something, right? So that would be a proposed disagreement. But as long as the communication is getting across, like you understood the objection, the real objection, not just the words, okay, the real objection, if you really understood the person and were able to answer that in such a way that they understood you, now we're selling. And that's really all it is, right? It's the transfer of ideas between people to the point where they can cooperate. So now look, right now, we've got people engaged in all different businesses here. So here is Lindsay putting out communication about these possibilities which exist, where you could have products and various opportunities, perhaps create another income stream for yourself and your family, anybody interested in that, right? But putting them out in such a way that they are received and that people can agree or comply and cooperate with, right? The intent that's out there. Now, some will and some won't, right? So there's a bit of a sorting process. Missy, right, has her cups and T-shirts and Christmas ornaments, right? And she's communicating that in a way that would induce, with the right target audience, not with everybody, but with the right target audience, agreement, compliance, transaction, nice, okay? So if we just do that consistently, regardless of whether or not the other party is conscious of what's actually happening. In other words, you could have somebody, give an example here. Here's somebody throwing out an objection after objection. They appear to be, belligerent or just non-compliant or out of accord. Okay. Well, if it's your intention all the time, and then we never take this for granted, if it's your intention at all times to cause cooperation, to cause those benefits that you're offering into the marketplace to be received, to be delivered, well, if that's your only intent is to serve that customer, regardless of how unconscious they may be, or even antagonistic they may be, if you just keep coming back to that center, you're unmoved. You're unmoved. And I've seen this again and again. This is where persistence comes in. I've seen this again and again, where someone, no, yes. Who didn't move? I didn't move, right? They moved. And so you can think of this like, almost like a chess game. That's got a bit more complication to it, but you've got a few key pieces in there. Like, for example, the king. The king doesn't move much, right? So consider that. Consider that the king, if you know how chess is played, that the king is to be stable and protected and upright at all times. Okay, so the king goes down, game's over. So if you can identify what is the king for you, what is that stable, solid, here's this one datum that I shall not move off of my position on that, right? And it is my intent. Yes, my intent to of course, reach goals for myself and create a lifestyle and all that. But my intent to deliver these benefits in terms of this game that we're playing here, this business game, it is my intent, unmoving, unflappable, implacable, unshakable, right? That I shall deliver these benefits into the marketplace. And if you, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, don't agree, that's fine. We've got 7.5 billion other people on the planet. I'm going to keep delivering these benefits. I'm going to keep communicating powerfully, right? And then maybe you come around, maybe you don't, but I'm not moving. That sort of resolve has been, and I don't have too many strong suits, okay, but that has been a strong suit for me. In businesses where I've run organizations, like sales organizations, people saw me as the rock. I think perhaps you guys still do, right? Do I ever not show up, right? So, and please, I'm not trying to brag or anything. I'm just letting you know, this is one thing that I'll with humility, which is what? Honest self-appraisal. I'm going to appraise that, yes, John, you show up. You are a rock. Okay, good. Okay, so I can be relied upon. That is a strong suit. Is that something that I can now sell, right? I can be like, well, let's say, for example, back to Lindsay. All right. Everybody loves Lindsay, right? Anybody who knows her loves her. She shows up, right? And her product, let's say, here's her offer. Okay. And within that offer, there's products. And you can go buy those products from other people too, right? You don't need Lindsay. All right. But the offer includes more than just those products, right? So we're not talking about commodities anymore. So now the offer also includes your ability to work with Lindsay. And here are all her attributes and the benefits that she has now become an asset to the offer, which that customer can now participate in. In fact, they can't get that exact combination of assets anywhere else because there's no other Lindsay, right? There's only one. So no competition. Now, you've got to know that for yourself, right? I mean, me telling Lindsay she's great, I guess that's nice. Her ego or whatever might like that, but she's got to know that. She's got to be able to say that to herself, not outwardly. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I'm awesome, just in case you wondered. Although that might be some good shtick, right? That might attract some of the right people. But as opposed to what most people do is self-deprecate, which I guess is cute or something, or maybe they get sympathy, or maybe people think, well, maybe they're harmless or something because they think so little of themselves. Screw that. People talk about being vulnerable. I say be strong. So other people might label it as vulnerable. I'm just, you know what? I'm going to give you candor. I'm going to give you truth. Does that mean I'm vulnerable? No, it means I'm strong enough to say what is. And if the truth isn't good enough, well, shit, go sell something else, right? Back to other examples that we have here, and you can put in your own combinations. What is it that separates you because of that unmovable intent, that beingness, that position that you take in the marketplace or in your family or in your business organizations, right? What is that thing that makes you an asset to whatever potential transaction that might be participated in? You've got to have those answers for yourself. So I'm going to suggest then, as we get into this holiday season and the new year coming up and all this, and this is right out of Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, the annual inventory. Does anybody remember that? The annual inventory that we take for ourselves to see, how we've progressed or devolved or whatever. But you can go back through that. I believe it was in the chapter on organized planning. and you can assess for yourself strengths and weaknesses. And you can, Lindsay remembers it, yes. And you can, I think you're going to find probably, unless you're moving cross country like somebody I know, I think you're probably going to find a day where you can dedicate a couple hours to this, because it's not a light duty kind of a thing. It's also not a college course or anything. I mean, you could sit down and do it. But go through that inventory. What was there? Something like 80 different, I don't recall the number, but there was a bunch of different considerations. What about that? What about that? What about that? And so you get to just kind of take inventory, and you can assess for yourself. All right, here are the areas of improvement moving forward. And you can also assess, yes, I have improved, because last year my answers would have been different. So look, progress, that's nice. Okay. So we're tracking our progress, but also being as honest as we can with ourselves about, here are my deficits. Here are my shortcomings. And now I can be strong about that. Be strong and make some new decisions. Most people don't do this, of course. They'll get drunk and then they'll have a New Year's resolution and they'll forget about it next week, and that's the end of it. Okay, so this is a much higher level of participation for those of you who have resolve, right? But we can't fix a problem if we can't confront the problem. So let's look at it. And one of them, I would say, one of the things that we could all afford, and I think we damn well better afford attention on, is improving our communication to the point where we can not be all things to all people, okay, but be so solid in our own beingness and our own position with what we've chosen to do with our life. Let's say for the next 12 months, right? What we've chosen to do, the example we're here to set, the demonstration that we are about to demonstrate, right? That we are so convicted in that we don't have to second guess ourselves. We've talked about the introversion that happens so often when people are not sure if they're doing it right, not acting in the certain way, right? To quote Wallace D. Wattles, right? The certain way. You don't get rich by doing certain things. You get rich by doing things in a certain way, the way of certainty, the way of no doubt, acting as though it were impossible to fail. That rock, that position, that certainty. Okay, anything we can do to induce that in ourselves, I think is a very worthy, because now we're doing the most internal sales pitch of all, and the most important one you could ever do, and that's you selling you. I sell me, and then it's easy to sell everybody else because I'm not introverted, I'm extroverted. Now I can hear you. I'm not listening to me anymore. I'm good. Don't worry about me. You. I'm here to help you. Therefore, the way to do it right is to know you're doing it right, a certain way. Okay, so that has to start with the rock. Okay, you're not building on sand, you're building on rock. And who's the rock? You are the rock. So the continuum of sales, the highest paid profession in the world, starts at the rock. That's got to be sold. That sale has to happen, or you got no shot. Then from there, your organization's internal sales, right? Partners and associates and affiliates, et cetera, right? And then outside sales, which is what everybody's focused on, right? Oh, I need leads. I need to go, give me the script. I need to overcome their objections. Think of that. The nucleus, right? And then the outer membrane, and then the public. That's sales. Sales starts within and then goes out. And if we do that right, like Earl Nightingale said, sales is the highest paid profession. If you're good at it, okay, good at what? Good at communicating. Where does it start? Here. It's got to start here. If you don't got you got no shot. Okay. Then you don't got good partners, you're going to go really slow. And you don't have leads, well, then, to what end are we even doing any of this, right? So sales starts with an inner knowingness to an internal or a nuclear community of agreement and common purpose, and then out into the potentially antagonistic marketplace to induce cooperation in those and to enroll others in the vision of the group and of the individual. Now, I say that hopefully giving you some ideas, whether you identify as a salesperson or not. I'm telling you, you are, but whether you identify it or not, as this is just an idea to help you be more effective in whatever you intend to do. Because if we're looking at something that seems completely unrelated to sales, let's go back to the truck driver. If the truck driver didn't have certainty in their competence to operate machinery across long distances, Okay. If they were introverted, if they had their attention inside the cab of the truck and trying to figure out, oh, am I holding the steering wheel right and all that stuff? Sounds silly. Okay. But how effective could they be when it's time to extrovert? Put your attention outside of the machine, right? That's where most of your attention has to be. It'd be a rough job. They probably wouldn't last long. People could die and everything, right? The accountant, right? If they're confused about math or whatever, how how effective are they going to be? And these things reveal themselves. The demonstration of bad accounting or crashed trucks, right? There's nothing vague about that, right? That's called, broken, not right. Okay. But in the so-called world of sales and marketing, where we've got lots of variables and lots of subjective, this and that, right? I like Missy's coffee cup. You don't like Missy's coffee cup. Right. So what's right? Was there right and wrong? No, there is none. So now we get to give ourselves lots of excuses, which I'd say is even more important since we're dealing with many more variables, which could be much more nebulous and vague and whatever. Now we definitely have to be the rock. You definitely have to have a solid core. Otherwise, you'll be taken off course pretty easily, right? All that doubt. Yeah. Oh, they disagreed with me. I could say the same thing about parenting. And no, I haven't. I don't think I'm ready to write the manual on how to be the ideal parent. Although things seem to be working out okay for the most part. But the idea that if I didn't have principles, like I know, and I'm not getting off this position for any reason, period, end of story. I know that drugs and ugly stuff, pedophilia, like all abuse, right? I know that there's no place for that in this family. Okay. So does that sound certain? Do I sound certain to you about that? Yeah, I'm certain. I'm not moving off that position. I know it. I don't hope, I don't believe. I know. All right. Therefore, based on that rock, here's effective sales communications. Here's the sales pitch. Clean your freaking room. All right. So here's the effective sales pitch because I'm not moving off that position. And they know it. They know it. That deal is sold. All right. I know other parents misuse the phrase, spare the rod and spoil the child. Nobody's ever raised a hand, including and especially me and my wife, to my daughter. Okay. But why? We have good communication because we have principles. We have a rock that we can build on. I don't need to do this. Right. By the way, that saying, spare the rod and spoil the child, it's the rod of truth and wisdom. It's, from biblical, like, here is the rod, the sword of, right. So that doesn't mean beat your kids. That's not what that means. Like, who came up with that? I don't know. Weird. But anyway, I'm babbling. Let me stop babbling. I've been talking 29 minutes here. I love you guys. I hope you got something out of this. It's Fun Friday. We didn't even get to hear a joke. And my dogs are downstairs, so I'm not doing a dog show today. Any thoughts on this internal and then expanding circle of influence into sales, marketing, and being the best at whatever your profession is, because you can actually communicate it? Any thoughts on this? Yes, Missy?
This morning I had a sales training call at 11 and I came out because I'm here to participate. I hit the number and I learned that I've been doing some things wrong because my major thing was if I build a rapport, then these people will buy from me. And I seem to automatically have a rapport with these people, except for the lady who was drunk and the guy who fell over. I thought he was shot in the back. He went unconscious, but I wasn't standing solidly in, I'm going to make this deal because I've never sold before. Okay. But now I understand just from this one call and from what you have done today, it ties in so beautifully. And I'm going to go about it differently. I've let them move me off the sale. When one guy had his credit card out and ready to go, and I don't even know what happened because I did not hold my position.
Mm.
And I was like, well, he won't like me if I continue to say, well, wait a minute now, you making a mistake. Whatever I might have said to him with a different mindset. I'm learning this from the ground floor up. And so I'm really grateful for this conversation. It couldn't have been more timely for me.
Oh.
And I think things are going to change. Because I was thinking of myself as almost like the pawn. I'm the pawn, I'm the salesperson. And no, I'm the queen. The queen does a lot of things, but I'm the king. I'm going to protect that kingship as the queen. And I'm going to have a different attitude on these calls that I'm making. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. What a great cognition to actually observe. Oh, that's what I did. I got off my position on that. I heard Bob Proctor. I think everybody here is familiar with Bob Proctor's work. And I heard him in a lecture once say, I would take a man's last $100 to buy one of my courses. Why? Because I know what it'll do for him. Right? Because other people, like in the audience, might be thinking, oh, well, maybe you need to be charitable or something. Oh, hold on a second here. Servant's worth is higher, right? And if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. You have been trying ignorance. Give me your last $100 and now go study this and really friggin' study it, because now it means something, because you just gave me the last of your money. Okay. And now you can go, best way to help the poor is to not be one of them, right? Now go figure stuff out. So that's a convicted position. Bob's not moving off that position. And Bob does other, philanthropic stuff and all that, I'm sure too. But in terms of exchanging with the public, no doubt about the value of his program. I thought that was an awakening for me. Especially, I recall this was in a network marketing group. He was talking to a bunch of broke network marketers. Right? They're all trying to sell their jungle juice to their friends, family, and neighbors and all this. And nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. Okay. I'm just saying these were people with mostly a lack consciousness. I need to get. I need leads and people. I need to make sales. I need to sell my stuff. Right? I need to get. Right? So a lack consciousness. There was actually a course. I dug it up recently. Frederick Lehrman, Prosperity Consciousness. It was released on Nightingale Conant. We did a couple events with Frederick going back 15 years or whatever. And he had some interesting perspectives on the difference between, lack or limitation, poverty consciousness versus abundance and plenty, and just the consciousness of that. Because when we get, I know this is a field of our topic today, but when we get patterns going on in our mind about there's always enough, there's always plenty, and now it's just about me arranging the receiving pipelines to appropriate that which is already mine and being delivered right on schedule. It's a completely different approach to, like these people who were sitting in this lecture where Bob startled them with the fact that he would take their last $100 if he had to. That woke people up, I think. And then they probably forgot and they're still doing whatever they're doing. But some people, they're like, wow, now I get it. I'm here to sell. Bob's selling me right now. You know what? Go buy my jungle juice right now, because it's friggin' awesome. Right? Now, you also have to, say this, you also have to ethically, where I talked about knowingness, I talked about having a position. There can be no, inner conflict on that. Like I said before, if the truth isn't good enough, go sell something else. Like you can't lie.
Right? No, I absolutely believe in the product. There was something missing in my presentation. Mm-hmm. There was something inside of me. There's nothing outside of me. But now it got shoved in there, and it's going to grow into something beautiful. Mm-hmm. It.
Right. Good. Well, you're convicted then. Fan-friggin-tastic, Missy. Woo! Anybody else? All right. So then I'll be back with anyone who wants to tune in at 6 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. I may be packing boxes while I do this, but that's okay. I'd love to hear from you if you've got thoughts, ideas. Janet and I had a nice conversation 2 weeks ago on Be Heard. She's advancing with her endeavors. And so we'll see who shows up there today. Anyway, love you guys. Make it an awesome day. Okay, we'll